And then Christian, it's you want.
Okay. Shall we start? Okay. So it is my very great honor and joy today to welcome Jigme Khyentse Rinpoche, who very kindly agreed to this 2-day teaching hosted by Khyentse Vision Project, the project that whose vision it is to translate the works of Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo and the lineage masters of the Khyentse lineage. Khyentse Rinpoche is Jigme Khyentse Rinpoche, also one of the principal advisors of the project. His blessing and advice has shaped the project, and his blessings continue to shape the project. So we are very, very grateful that he kindly agreed to give these 2 days teachings. The teaching will be translated into 6 languages, so heartfelt thanks to all the translators and all the team that is behind all of this. And the subject of the talks will be on 2 texts by Khyentse Wangpo. The first is called The Gentle Rain of Nectar to Benefit Others, which was translated by Jamie Creek. And the second text, Words of Aspiration with Advice Granted to Wen Shemping Kunga, translated by Jean-Luc Achard. And so with this short introduction, I think we will open with the prayers, which I will read out, so everyone is welcome to join. And then I will ask Rinpoche to kindly bestow his teachings. In Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha sublime, we seek refuge until awakening. By virtue of our giving and the like, may we awaken to benefit all. In Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha sublime, we seek refuge until awakening. By virtue of our giving and the like, may we awaken to benefit all. In Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha sublime, we seek refuge until awakening. By virtue of our giving and the like, may we awaken to benefit all. The blessing of Manjushri appearing as the emanation of Vimalamitra, the 13th rebirth of Gyaltse Larje, Pema Dongag Lingpa, holder of the 7 special transmissions, Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo, to you we pray. The earth is perfumed with scented water and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the 4 continents, the sun and the moon. Imagining this as the Buddha realm, I offer it, so that all beings may enjoy that pure realm. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayami. In accordance with the capabilities and the diverse aspirations of sentient beings, I ask you to turn the wheel of Dharma of the greater, lesser, or conventional vehicles.
So, good afternoon, everyone who is present here and present online. So some time ago, Dharma asked me to entertain you on Khyentse Vision. Can you hear? So I said, good afternoon. Did you hear that? And a few weeks ago, Dharma asked me to entertain you on Khyentse Vision. I think those who are online can hear, can't they? Okay. And so she gave me a few choices of the text that all of you at Khyentse Vision have been translating. This is really such a marvelous thing that one can, in the year 2026, we can read what Khyentse Wangpo has said. In the midst of Eastern Tibet, when I don't know even if the English language was something known to that area. I'm not saying that Khyentse Wangpo wasn't aware of it, because I think there were some European missionaries who had come to Tibet to in the hopes of converting the Dalai Lama and some of the other Tibetan lamas. So I think they did know that there was some slightly, can we say, un-Tibetan looking people who had come to Tibet with red hair, white skin, and I don't know, maybe white teeth, and probably, what do you call it, exhumed with some perfume that people naturally get when they come to Tibet, wearing heavy clothes and not having any opportunity to wash. And I think a lot of the time, the Tibetans were so afraid. I remember once one of my teachers who had met some Westerners who had come to Mount Everest, and they had come there. And what my teacher told me was that at that time, the British had come there with, of course, a big caravan of food and tents. And they said that they even brought their bathtubs. I don't know why they would bring bathtubs all the way to Mount Everest's base camp, but they did do so. And many of the Tibetans didn't even dare look at them because they'd never seen them. And especially the elders told the younger ones, don't look at them. You know, they might, I don't know what they were afraid of. And my teacher said that he could not bear to not look. He was so curious. So he looked really through the windows, curtain. And he said that they were very strange. So anyway, I don't think I have to tell that story, but anyway, at the time Khyentse Wangpo was writing these texts, I don't think that even a word English the language was, what can we say, known. But maybe they did, because the English have gone everywhere trying to, colonize or liberate the savages from their savageries. They, I think, really managed to liberate many of the Indians from their savage culture of, what can we say, Indian classic music and all of those things. So I think they were trying to come to Tibet to do that. But anyway, the Tibetans at that time had no idea, especially that this would be translated based on some place called Nambucca in Australia. I think they would have no idea that this would happen. But somehow, I think the aspirations of Khyentse Wangpo and then the connection that we have with Khyentse Wangpo happened to make this occur. And today, here we are, gathered around the writings of Khyentse Wangpo. And amongst the texts that Donna proposed, first she proposed some other texts, which of course are very profound, some of them too profound for me to be able to understand. And also, I think I was aiming at getting the example of Khyentse Wangpo that can make us more realistic, more grounded, more, what can we say, less trippy, and possibly something in Khyentse Wangpo's life that would expose our spiritual materialism that would be so so helpful for us. So the text is called 𝘕𝘦𝘤𝘵 𝘠𝑒𝑡𝑒𝑟𝑒𝑠, gentle rain of nectar to benefit others. So I'll just first read a few lines in Tibetan. 𝘠𝑒𝑛𝑘𝑖 tōpa shibantu dāmbātān rīwa, 𝘕𝑒𝑚 𝑝ēn shēshāwa, swastis virasto, chotu yawa yishi gyume kuchipu. Padina matambandam jishajipe motimame pala kupe chansa shinkepsin chiwo, yawane tsera tam, tsera ki chengwa tam jibu chingi latu so, chitana rikene ngashi ki ringzang tube zula mawe zunyen, nangdana jena pembe sem kona yila changwa. Yasishan jusembe sojen, sangutana kyabla lama tamba, keishin ngudunye batame kusuntu, yishi doji ngo shingi labe te pachoke nanjopa. Jamyang Khyentse Rinpoche give tam. So now I'll read the translation of it. A gentle rain of nectar to benefit others. So this is, I think, an introduction to himself by Khyentse Wangpo. As we do these days, when somebody is trying to give their, CV, or put a little introduction to themselves on any kind of social media. I had yet to see anyone's, what is it called? The picture that you have on social media, what is it called? Profile picture that isn't from the profile. I haven't seen anyone where they're not sort of touched up, that are not either looking from below or above, or some kind of profile, as if that person is only can be seen in that way. If I use somebody's profile and then try to look for them, I would have to first try to ask the person, can you turn a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left? Can I switch some light on from above, from below? Can I blur your face a little bit? And then I would say, oh, that is you. Profiles, whether it is on your social media profile or how you introduce ourselves, what is it called? Wherever it is, whenever it is, when anyone introduces someone, whether they're alive or not, what is it? Kind? What else? I think one important thing is they have to be funny. Kind, funny, intelligent, beautiful, okay? Beautiful person, empathetic, artist, writer, what else? Father, mother, sister, husband, wife, daughter, child, grandchild. And all of that is still a profile. Why don't we say somebody who has to get up to pee every hour, 3 times an hour, twice an hour, if they drink? If I don't drink, then dehydrated. Aren't these profiles too? Cracking, what is it, heels with big bunions. This, like, actually, if you put a photo on, it should say, this photo is from 40 years ago. This is how I would like to be seen, but actually I am not. I have more wrinkles. I have had stitches on my face, some makeup. So, what Khyentse Wangpo is saying here, first, of course, in the text it says, I prostrate in reverence to the stainless lotus feet of the glorious masters and take refuge in them. Your illusory form is nothing but a manifestation of wisdom, who were conquerors in all directions and time. Grant your blessings throughout the chain of all my successive lives. This is something very usual to see in many of our teachers' writings, paying homage. This is, I think, it is there so that nobody can think that, or rather, this is so that one doesn't use our introduction to blow up oneself. Not blow up explosion, but boast, to become bloated. Mainly to say that any qualities he has comes from his teachers, from the elders who have given him teachings. So this is really called in Tibetan Khenpa. It's sort of bursting the bloating. I suppose, imagine if you had to go to an event and you were terribly bloated. If you were terribly, terribly bloated, you could hardly speak, what would you do? Fart or not fart? Fart and be able to talk, or not fart and be speechless? So here, this is really the important thing, to remove the pride. Then he pays homage to his teachers. This is present in any of our teachers' writings, sometimes a little bit long, sometimes just a few words, few lines, sometimes a word or two. That is something very important, because without doing that, whatever is said is likely going to be infused with pride, infused with bloatedness, and therefore not a real profile. At least not something that we can, it's not something that we might benefit from. So this is very important in the beginning. This is really like ensuring that the message is sane, that the one who is teaching is aware of the obstacles that can occur, which is pride. Pride usually doesn't come alone. Pride comes with having to uphold a pride. Pride comes with wanting to keep up appearances, especially the profile that we would like to project. It comes with the fear of not being able to hold it. So all of these are there when we have pride. So that's why there is the necessity of spending the time of reading three lines before anything. So then Chitan Rigbine Ngashiki Mingzam Tube Zuglamavim Zunye. So then he says, outwardly, my appearance is that of a teacher of sacred law, who has merely heard the name of a few fields of knowledge. What is the law? What is it? Those of you who are online, please check, type, look at the dictionary. What is a law? Merely heard the name of few fields of knowledge. In Tibetan, Rigbine, fields of knowledge. There are few that we mention that are art, knowing medicine, and linguistics, and what is it? Dialectics. and then philosophy. And here is, as you can see, what kind of profile that he is putting up. He said, somebody who has merely heard the names of a few fields of knowledge. He could have said, somebody who knows all of the Buddhist philosophies that are available in Tibet. Somebody who is the author of that. Somebody who is, what is it called? World-renowned? Isn't that what we have to write these days? World-renowned bestseller of this or that. Imagine somebody saying the worst seller, or didn't even dare to have something to sell. This is such a contrast between Khyentse Wangpo's profile that he is showing us and how we relate to our profiles. So in terms of his learning, he said, well, I'm somebody who actually knows the names of the things that can be learned. So not complete idiot, because at least I know the names of these things that are to be learned. But again, just somebody who knows that there's so much to learn. And then, so that is in terms of his learning that we can, I suppose, we can assess. I think when Khyentse Wangpo taught, every different teachings of the different traditions that he taught, people following those traditions had the feeling that he was completely knowledgeable in that subject, and it felt as if that was the only thing he would have studied his whole life. It was same with Jamyang Khyentse Rinpoche. Whenever different students from different traditions came, the vocabulary that he would use, the examples that he would use, were all just from that tradition. So, and I think it was the same of Jamyang Khyentse Rinpoche. So this is what Khyentse Wangpo is actually showing us. I suppose in a certain sense, to show that when one doesn't have that insecurity, then one doesn't have to have a specific profile. Now, I'll mention the names of a few teachers. Jigme Khyentse Rinpoche, 𝘕𝘦𝘠𝘠𝘠 Rinpoche, 𝘕𝘪𝘠𝘠𝘠 Rinpoche. Look at their photos. Please search the internet and see if they are trying to show a certain profile. Are they posing or not? They're not posing because they have nothing to hide. Their profile is just very natural. So this is how Khyentse Wangpo is showing what he actually, I suppose, what he is like to us. The second one, nang tar na jela tempe sem kona yilan changwe gezi sanjus tempe sorgen. Inwardly, I pretend to be a bodhisattva, a son of the conquerors, who has only the benefit of others in mind. You know, this is very difficult to bring Tibetan sentence structure into English, but inwardly, he says, he is pretending to be, he is inwardly, he feels like a poser, bodhisattva poser. Again, if we would like to, we see how we actually project our profile. Someone who is kind, someone who is empathetic, who really thinks of others. But Khyentse Wangpo says here, somebody who just poses as that, who pretends, who is a pretender. These are actually, in a certain sense, we can say that this is how Khyentse Wangpo is teaching, but these are things that I think we can actually relate to. Somewhat and I kept the lama tamba keshing, nudum yeba to make us 2 years ago, Jimo Shinila Betapacho and Jamyang Khyentse Rinpoche 𝘕𝘦𝘠𝘵. And secretly, I'm a yogi of the supreme vehicle, whose body, speech, and mind have been blessed as the nature of Vajra wisdom by my sublime sovereign masters who have attained learning and accomplishment. I, Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo, address these words to you, excellent lamas and monastics. 𝘕𝘰𝘦𝘠𝘕. So even there, when he's saying he is somebody who has been blessed by them, we notice he's not saying he's somebody who has realized all of this. I'm not saying that he hasn't, but for somebody like an ordinary person like me, it would be so difficult to not put some words as to actually I have, but actually pretending not to have. He says here, just been blessed by my teachers. You could have, we would think, you could add there, have been blessed and become the same as them, realized all of their wisdom. But he didn't. So these are, in one sense, biographical. Here, this is called 𝘠𝘩𝘦. It's showing what is, I suppose, usually it's translated as expressing one's realization. But here it's more like showing himself, what he has or hasn't realized clearly. Basically, it's an honest account of who he would like us to think of as. So 운송섭의 라마 겐든반 남제 냐남도 서와 고자 충문의 랍도 중에 강줄라 대진 중세 나르선바나 리빈네 가당 발발까진 저 용전담면 이슈단얘기 전 이슈자숨진 전 마위 취마위 개니 취마위 신이 개주 자파레 담바숨제 윤 넘버다 토진 데노숨다 비데 지 sabje dambe duze momba mebertung te dagi tana 중세 제바제 제베 남지참에 제 그냥 지장 그네 냠베 올라나 통역와식 좀 소타기 원도 챘나 자시 장밤에 동화된 아빠마다 선주스메 원도 챘나 챘나 지도고는 너데선 바제 편복거나 줄라 템보 상하디나 원도 챘나 아마 담반는 니는 거데 로다소 멜람동안 방생 단한 찐유장배 넘버스미게 자와나 예번 마고신 얘라 차진 남사듬 소딘든 바다 조르 뒤 남도양 수유 카다 메년 진 녜체와단 컨체와 이게 공수마 소즈마롱바 템바단 신젠라 템바 마주자로 너삽 체와랑 마주진 강주 내장 로데신 기바 도바네 나르 펜유 나르 펜유 덴들럼베 동반제발라 신 세네진을 아마 건축에 투지라가 바 임을 젠술랑 레도메 니네장 레도메. So now, since childhood, I have had admiration for monastic life. And when I got a little older, I studied some of the fields of knowledge. I received the pure lineage of the three vows from more than 80 teachers of the Dharma, including my 23 sublime mentors who have been especially kind to me. I drank the nectar of their profound and vast instructions on the Tripitaka and the 4 classes of Tantra, never satisfied that what I had already received, having examined their meaning to a certain extent, I adopted an attitude of not making long-term plans, knowing that the time of death is uncertain and everything is pointless. Thus, I had laid the foundation for the path. So, He's saying that since childhood he had an admiration for monastic life. And when he got a little older, he studied some of the fields of knowledge. One could say that in that time, during Khyentse Wangpo's time, there was a lot of examples. What is it called? Influencers. These days we have certain type of influencers. At the time of Khyentse Wangpo, there must have been a lot of influencers. And one could think that that is what influenced him. But at the same time, there isn't as many Khyentse Wangpos that we could sort of come up with. So I don't know if it is only the outer event of having influences that made Khyentse Wangpo somebody like Khyentse Wangpo. Whether it is Khyentse Wangpo, 𝘈𝘥𝘷𝘪𝘐 Rinpoche, there's not many of them. So I think that, for example, during his time, there were so many people in Tibet. I'm sure Tibet was filled, especially that area, was filled with other kind of influences, business people, nomads, robbers, and craftsmen. In fact, Khyentse Wangpo was a son of a minister, so I'm sure the influences of his father, where he worked, would have made a difference. But as he says here, he had an admiration for monastic life. So it shows that he was not just, can we say, is this a word, plonker? Just somebody there. He knew he was intelligent and he knew what he wanted. Whereas these days we think that influence is so important. It is important, but it is not just that. He was able to choose what influenced him. For us, it's so difficult to choose what influences us. For somebody like me, when I was with my teachers, those teachers that you know of, like Tengku Khyentse Rinpoche, and like some of you have met them, Dr. Trishu Rinpoche, Tujum Rinpoche. Maybe many of you might not have met Kangyur Rinpoche. Even when I was with them, I was still distracted by other things. We were distracted by movies that we wanted to go and watch while having Tengku Khyentse Rinpoche just there. Going out to a restaurant, having some food. So, what Khyentse Wangpo is showing here is that from his childhood, he was determined. And for us, it's so difficult to be able to choose what influences us. Just as we look here, all these devices, why do I have an Apple device? Why does somebody else have a PC? what is it? Microsoft devices, just influence. Of course, for people who are actually involved in programming and doing things, it might be different. But for most of us, it's just influence. Did I really choose it for any specific reason? Why do I have this particular phone? Why do I feel like I have to change for the next one? Just influence. Do I even use my phone to its full capacity? Absolutely not. Whether I'm using an iPad with this much, what is it called, processing power, this much. I don't know whether I really need any of those, but one chooses them because we're influenced. From our childhood on, more is better, faster is better. That's why many of us are actually tempted, most of us, can we say, neophytes, as far as technology is concerned. We want to buy bigger memory, bigger processing power, because bigger and faster is better. So it feels better. But actually, it doesn't make any difference for me to download my messages, downloading images, watching, what is it? Apple movies or YouTube. I don't think it makes a big difference. So those are all just influences. We're influenced by so many of those things. And noticing it, knowing that is something that we have to have as far as any kind of intelligent human being is concerned. We need that. And of course, also in the field of practicing the Buddha's teachings, we need that. That ability to know, ability to choose. We cannot have the ability to choose if we don't know. If I choose even looking for a glass to drink from, whether it is a plastic, whether it is a paper cup, whether it is a glass or a crystal to drink from right now, what difference does it make? Now you might think, oh, plastic's not good because of ecology. If it is already made in here, in my possession, throwing it away would be more unecological than anything else. But I will probably try to choose glass. Then again, glass, it's better to have crystal, natural crystal. We will choose all of those things. These are all influences that we have. If we don't notice them, then we can't make the right choice. Going to a shop looking for a crystal glass wastes much more time than just getting an ordinary glass. And if it is already there, a paper cup made, I'm not suggesting again that we buy, but if it is there in front of me, that protesting is nothing but a pompous, what is it called, eco-terrorist than anything else. Then, in that case, it is really not knowing why we're choosing. So, like at this moment in our world, many of us are so vulnerable, so easily triggered. Why are we so easily triggered these days? Because of influences. Because now in our world, having our, what is it called? Influences that are in front of us, whether it is on television, whether it is on our social media, whether it's on Instagram or anything else, everyone is so triggered, easily triggered. And then all of us become more and more easily triggered. We all become more and more dramatic. We become, what is it called? Drama. I would like to say drama emperors, drama kings and queens. We love to be appalled. We like superlatives. And then, actually, if we think, why do we have leaders like that? Whether it is political leaders or any other kind of leaders, why do we have them? Because we follow them. Because we look at them. In a certain sense, we have leaders like that because we accept leaders like that. We choose leaders like that. And if we choose leaders like that, what can they do apart from give us like that? Otherwise, we won't vote them in. Otherwise, we won't follow them. Whenever we follow anything, whether it's on Facebook, Instagram, or whatever else there is that we follow, in a certain sense, we might say that all of those people have such a low opinion of us. But at the same time, if you keep following them, aren't they right? They aren't wrong, actually. What is clear is that we have become so easily triggered. In Tibetan, there is this expression like easily triggered like a thorn bush. Imagine somebody wearing a shawl and then walking through a thorn bush. Everything gets caught on it. So basically here, at least as far as I'm concerned, and I see what Khyentse Wangpo was saying, that since my childhood, I have had admiration for monastic life. And when I got a little older, I studied some of the fields of knowledge. It is really an invitation to develop maturity. If we want a mature world, mature country, mature city, mature village, then we need to be mature. Developing that maturity. If we develop maturity, then eventually, as hopefully we're still living in a democracy, if all of us develop that maturity, then we will probably find a mature leader. I suppose that is what maturity, that is what democracy is about. So here, what Khyentse Wangpo was saying there, it's really showing a sign of maturity. Of course, maturity really depends for each different person, what they want to mature into. Sometimes we are so easily triggered because we know or we think we are right. But very often, this easily triggered situation is not really helpful to ourselves, nor to those who depend on us. Sometimes seeing that we are right is most triggering because it's something else that we can obsess about. Being right. When we follow that pattern, I'm just wondering if that isn't another excuse for tyranny. Usually, of course, everyone wants to be right. But if being right isn't a tool that can help us nurture sanity, then I don't think it has much benefit. Because being right can also sometimes drown us in craving for control and then being consumed by that control. And when that control doesn't happen, we feel aggression. So if we really look here, the example that Khyentse Wangpo was giving, since childhood, I have determination, admiration for monastic life. And when I got a little older, I studied some of the fields of knowledge. Many of us might have admiration, maybe not for monastic life, but many of us have admiration for spiritual life, spiritual path. Some of us might have admiration to going into solitary places, doing retreats, practicing, at least what we call practicing. That is, I think, something that we need to in one sense, it's admirable, but in another sense, whatever we admire needs to withstand scrutiny. And we really need to question, why am I wanting this? Some of us might want to stop working, stop doing certain things, whether it is being with friends, family, and then going into some kind of spiritual path. What does it actually mean? Why do we actually want that? Do I really want spiritual path? Do I really want to practice, become persons spending most of their time in seclusion? Why do I want that? And that question is something that we really need to ask. In fact, why do we do anything for that matter? Why do we do anything? Why do we get up in the morning? Why do we go to bed at night? Why do we work? Why do we go on holidays? Why do we have parties with friends? What is the the reason. Why do we have that impetus? For example, when we wake up in the morning, even if it is Sunday or Saturday, why do we get up? Why do we brush our teeth? And when you get on your social media, why do you put that filter on? Why? Because if you don't put that filter on, you're going to look like Snow White's, stepmother. You will definitely not look like Snow White. And we don't like looking like Snow White's stepmother. Because we don't like that, then we use the filter. So that filter is just an escape mechanism. We have so many escape mechanisms that we go for. And then after a while, if we are following any particular path, we follow that path. But how is that any different from any other escape mechanisms? Is it because it has a certain name? Is it because it has a certain, vocabulary, certain air? Is it because it has some kind of New Age music sound to it? Is it because it has some kind of sandalwood incense connected with it? Why? Is it because somebody's dressed differently? If we are doing our practices, whether it is chanting, visualizing, whether it is developing some stability, why do we do that? So I'll read a bit further. I received the pure lineage of the three vows from more than, I did read them already. So then he says, having examined their meaning to a certain extent, I adopted an attitude of not making long-term plans, knowing that the time of death is uncertain and everything is pointless. Thus, I laid the foundation for the path. Foundation for the path. Here, this sentence, it follows the previous sentence, which says, having examined their meaning to a certain extent. Ourselves as human beings, and if we are following Buddhist teachings, especially if we're following Khyentse Wangpo's tradition, then, as he says here, examine their meaning to a certain extent. As a practitioner, why am I following this? And then, what it is that we're following also is something that requires some scrutiny from our part. Of course, as you can understand, I adopted an attitude of not making long-term plans, knowing the time of death is uncertain. This refers to one of the four seals. All compounded things are impermanent. Again, as he says here, having examined their meaning, then he adopted an attitude of not making long-term plans. So, when we are doing anything that we're doing, why do we do them? When we are a little bit bored, what do? The first thing we do when we are a little bit bored, this is what we do. This is material, isn't it? And when this doesn't work in the way I want it to work, then what do? Get another one like this, so that it will do what I want it to do. Like getting a bigger one, so that I can watch Apple TV on it, or Netflix. That's a normal, regular, coping mechanism that we all have. Now, when I do this, why am I doing it? Because I don't want to be bored. Can you actually imagine going somewhere without this? Can you go somewhere without your, pin-ups? Without your fridge being completely wrapped in pin-ups? Your bathroom, your toilet, your bedroom without your pin-ups? For some people, it is pin-ups. For some people, it is this. For some, it is reading a book. For some, it's called what? Going into the nature, walking, swimming, drinking, going to the bar. These are all natural, normal coping mechanisms. Then, for some of us, it is called meditating. Whether it is ordinary, simple meditation, whether it is mindfulness meditation, shamatha meditation, whether it is vipassana, whether it is doing some vajrayana practices, mahayana practices, whether it is just sitting and being mindful. How is it any different? I am going to meditate because I want to be able to cope with the difficult things. In fact, some of us live as singles, some of us as couples. Why do we do that? Because without that, it's so lonely. Whatever it is, we are always trying to escape from something. So, escaping from that, in order to escape from that, as a spiritual materialist, then one would like to acquire a different kind of furniture, different kind of, uniform, carry different kind of paraphernalia. On top of this, something to clang with it, we need a mala. And then we go quickly rolling it as fast as we can. Sometimes when you do that a lot, you do get some, calluses. That's something absolutely we can get. Other than that, I'm not so sure what many of us get. You can sit and meditate doing something called mindfulness or awareness, apart from getting some kind of ethereal poses that we would like to have. I'm not so sure what else we can get out of it. Of course, the way you sit, you get used to it. So if you sit straight, and walk very slowly and talk very slowly, one day you'll be able to put people to sleep just by being there. That is really what we are able to do physically. But inwardly, have we actually escaped? That's the question. In fact, everything we do is a coping mechanism. Even being right, even following our influences, obsessing about them, it's just a coping mechanism. And then sometimes when what we are following happens to be logical, correct, then we can become, what is it called? Fundamentalists. We can become righteous. Is that spiritual path? I don't know. We have to ask ourselves that. In fact, I think all of us are looking for some lasting comfort, an eternal reassurance, some kind of relief. We're looking for it everywhere. But is it possible? Have we found one outside? Looking for it. Don't know whether we have found it, but whenever there is something that is a little bit shiny, a little bit appealing to our specific kind of insecurity, I notice people like myself throw or abandon ourselves blindly into them as a source of relief, but very often I find my own demise in it. All of these, we all want to be happy, don't want to be unhappy. I would love to always hear nice things about myself and never not nice things about myself. I would like to always be, what is it called? Elevated, not unvalued. These are called the 8 worldly dharmas. These are actually, we might look down at them as 8 worldly dharmas from the Buddhist point of view. But actually, this is nothing but a coping mechanism that we all are bound to. In fact, in order to cope with pain, discomfort, not getting what we want, getting what we don't want, we have nowhere else to go but our filings of our own emotions and memories and habits. So we turn to our own emotions to remedy, to find a remedy. But these emotional things that we find are mainly obsessive behaviors anger, attachment. Basically, we go for them so that we don't feel the initial discomfort. We go to attachment so that we don't feel that. And we go to anger so that we don't feel that. Sometimes what we call righteous anger is just an escape. So is also attachment. I'm not saying that anger and attachment are bad, but they're simply coping mechanisms that we follow. These are usually, according to the Buddhist teachings, called the 8 worldly concerns. It doesn't mean that it is bad, but it is just that, worldly concerns, coping mechanisms that have very short, what do you call it? Expiry, what is it called? Expiry date. Like when we feel anxiety and fear, what do we go to? For some, as I said, it is this. You look at it, you hear this, and then it keeps going round and round and round. And at the end, you have a buzzing ear, and if you're looking at it, your ears are blurred. The result is that still, whatever you were anxious about is still there. It's very short-lived. What is it? Pleasure. And then sometimes, when that is not enough, you find something to be appalled by, or somebody in our surrounding does something, or maybe all they do is just simply fart, and we think they had farted against us. And then we have something to live for. Now I can feel righteous. And then during that time when I'm feeling so righteous, I don't feel that initial pain. So here, it's just an escape mechanism. We've used that as an escape mechanism. Most of what we do is called mundane from the Buddhist point of view because it only is very short. The result is very short term. And then, from the Buddhist point of view, there's something called slightly longer term expiry date. That is, when these difficult things happen, if you make a choice to train your mind to making it more peaceful, more positive, more wholesome, like engaging in actions that are kind, generous, patient, instead of anger, jealousy, etc., then it has a slightly longer, long-term expiry date. Now, this, of course, is not valid for those who don't believe in past and future lives. In the Buddhist point of view, when we believe in past and future lives, then even not only in this life, because our mind is so tuned in this way, it will make it so that it will continue even in the next life, the positive actions. But still, it is still just that. It is a long-term, slightly longer-term escape mechanism. The reason why we say that is that we are still not free from what we call samsara. What we call samsara is the chain link, or the impossible to break chain between suffering and cause of suffering. Suffering and cause of suffering. Cause of suffering is more related to our own mind, what it chooses as a solution to free itself from suffering, what it chooses as a solution or not. That is more the cause of suffering. And then the result of that is what we call suffering. So these two, as long as these two are not understood, then as long as we keep choosing truth of suffering and truth of cause of suffering, we'll never be free from that. So knowing that, understanding that, is sorry, I've lost its thread. I think I'm going to start a new thread. I lost the old thread. So just to start again, I was talking about this coping mechanism that we call the 8 worldly concerns. And then based on the Buddha's teachings, we have something also called the path of human realm, path of humans and gods, usually in Tibetan it's called 𝘈𝘦𝘯𝘕, something that leads to more positive human experiences or experiences in the God realms. For that, then we need to be able to notice the specific coping mechanisms that we go to in our daily life. Some of them are just our own negative emotions, and some of them are just our positive emotions that we go to. Sometimes to be happy, we go to negative emotions. Sometimes we be happy, we go to positive emotions. So here, the question is, we need to question, why do we go to the negative emotions? Is it because we think that that is really a solution, that is really going to make us happy? And if it isn't, then developing the courage to not engage in them. And if it is positive emotions and it brings positive result, then engaging in them in lieu of negative actions. And from the point of view of a Buddhist practitioner who believes in karma and law of, and past and future lives, then we do that with that in mind. At that point, then we can consider that the expiration date of that particular coping mechanism's result is slightly longer lasting, but still not lasting. And then, eventually, when we study it further, more thoroughly, knowing that wherever it is that we look at, there is, of course, pain. We're looking for some relief from fear. We're looking for pleasure. We're looking for happiness. And actually, we could check, we could investigate, we could be curious enough to ask whether a freedom from that discomfort is possible without expiry date. That's a question that we need to ask. If not, well, we continue as usual. But if there is, or if we think there is, if we are actually acting as if there is, if we feel that there is, then what could it be? This requires much more courage, much more honesty, and realize that in order to realize what is actually causing such pain, that it is actually not something always outside, but the discomfort is actually in how we react to ourselves. But actually, could that discomfort be what we call self-preservation? What is self-preservation when we look at it? Is self-preservation really self-preservation? Could it be just another escape mechanism, masquerading as self-preservation? Could it be? No, I think this requires some patience and some courage to actually look. Just imagine the moment you wake up in the morning, the moment you wake up, you lift your head from the pillow. Do you think we have enough courage to take a selfie at that time? I'm not talking about posting it anywhere. Do we have the courage to take a selfie and look at it? If we just have some moment of introspection, there's a constant, can we say, shimmering or shivering, fluttering. What other word can we use? Squirming, vibrating, although that might not be the right word. But almost like a leaf shivering or quivering in the winter, feeling the cold around, the fear around, and that feels uncomfortable. You know the expression, that carpet, what is it, being pulled from beneath us? Hmm? Pulling the carpet from underneath, under you, is it? Under you. Why do we sit on a carpet? I think that's the question we should really ask. If we feel like the carpet has been pulled from underneath you, under you, whose fault is it that they can pull the carpet underneath our feet? Yes, it's the person who pulled it. It's the president of a certain country that has pulled the carpet underneath our feet. But why am I standing on that carpet? If it is pullable, then we could question that. Why am I standing on that carpet? That quivering, shivering thing that is in us, that makes us get up and try to distract ourselves. And then anything else, everything else. While I'm feeling that, if somebody screams, I screech. If somebody has put something in the wrong spot, or you put something somewhere and they used it and put it in the other side of the world, then what do we feel? If we are feeling that quiveriness, then it'll be more than quivering. It'll be clattering. And possibly it will come out of our mouth with all the words, vocabularies that we have learnt, with all the swear words that we would like to say, starting with, what is it, F, and etc., etc. Simply because I have no idea how to cope with this small jitteriness. Have we ever questioned whether this jitteriness is something bad? Who told us that that is bad? Where did we learn that that quivering is bad, that we should run away from it? Who made that jittery, quivery, fluttering feeling? See, the moment you say fluttering, it's nice. But if you say quivering, jittery, shivering, it's not. Who made it something bad? Who made that into boogeyman? Who made that into that monster? Who made that into a monster? Do you ever remember, any of you, when you were growing up, the fear of a monster somewhere lurking in the dark corners of your house? Do you even still have it now? Maybe you do. If you do have that now, next time I suggest you take a torch, shine it, look at it, look at every part, every square inch of that corner. And then sit there then it might be the other corners. Maybe you should call some friends, ask them to switch lights on in every corner and sit there. Where is it? Where is this boogeyman? Within our own jittery, flickering thing that we are always trying to run away from. We have spent our entire life trying to escape from that. Some of us play music to not feel that. Some of us run to not feel that. Some of us eat to not feel that. Some of us don't eat to not feel that. Some of us, I don't know, every part, everything that we are obsessed with is just to not feel that. Some of us are constantly angry to not feel that. Some of us are constantly wanting to please others to not feel that. And if we are practicing with that, just to not feel that if we're practicing, I don't know if it's a good news or bad news. It might just be news, neither good nor bad. I don't think it's a waste of time, but it might be time to wake up. Without facing that jitteriness, I don't think there's any possibility of following in the footstep of Khyentse Wangpo. I remember one of my teachers, he went on a pilgrimage in Tibet. I think he was very young, in his teens. And every night they would stop somewhere, sometimes under a tree, sometimes they didn't really know where they were because it was dark. And one day they said, he was with his brother, he was tired walking all day, so he went to bed. So they slept and they found a nice soft log to lie down on, to use as a pillow. So they used it. And then when they woke up, it was actually a corpse. So I suppose he faced reality at that time. So here, as a practitioner, to follow Khyentse Wangpo's example, we really need to face this. This jitteriness that we are trying to run away from. What it is, and who is it that's running away from? Who am I? This profile that we have set up as ourselves, that particular profile is nothing but a coping mechanism. The profile that we have of ourselves, our own identity, is just another coping mechanism. Now, what is it really, if we can spend some time looking at it, experiencing it, whether it is pain, pleasure, fear, pride, jealousy, whatever it is, if we could actually relate to it, not run away from it. If we're feeling fear, facing it, and facing who is feeling this fear. Then I think everything else, all the boogeymen that we're trying to run away from, can be dealt with just one moment. What could that be? Whatever it is that we're afraid of, we need to face that. First, it's fear. Then it is what we're afraid of. of what is fierce. These are things that we need to be able to address. Before addressing the next text, which is Words of Aspiration with Advice, we need to be able to address this. Without this, whatever we do will be just another reading. It'll be another inspiration. But all of that will be just another escape mechanism, otherwise known as spiritual materialism, or just plain materialism. Why even call it spiritual materialism? It is just materialism. And there's nothing bad about it. We are all materialists. But at least if we can address that, face that, notice that, then we can be semi-awake materialists rather than completely, what is it called? Stoned spiritual materialists. Okay, that's all for today. See you tomorrow.
Thank you very much, Rinpoche, for your time and your teachings. We will recite the dedication prayers with our aspirations for your long life and for your healthy long life and your continuous turning of the wheel of Dharma. By this merit, may all attain omniscience, may it defeat the enemy wrongdoing. From the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of samsara, may all beings be free. Lord of the ocean of teachings in Tibet without bias, universal monarch of 7 wondrous transmissions, Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo, Manjugosha in person, may all be auspicious for your lineage to spread and flourish. As long as space remains, as long as the world remains, may I too remain to alleviate the sufferings of the world. So again, thank you so much, Rinpoche, and thank you all the participants who joined on Zoom. We will resume the teachings tomorrow. Rinpoche will continue to teach on this text and the other text. And we also want to thank all the translators. We had 6 translations. I just wanted to mention them briefly. Stephanie for Chinese, Maria for Russian, Olivia French, Luciano Portuguese, Christina in Spanish, and Ha for the Vietnamese translation. Thank you so much for your support, and all the tech team, Ina and Rashmi, and everyone involved, and of course Dolma for hosting these teachings in Australia. So thank you so much, everyone, and see you again tomorrow. Have a wonderful day.
All right. And for those of you who missed a part of this teaching or all of this teaching, it will be posted on the Khyentse Vision Project YouTube channel. Now you can unmute yourself and say bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
Thank
Thank you so much, Rinpoche.
Thank you,
Rinpoche. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
Thank you, Rinpoche. Thank you so much, Rinpoche.
you, Rinpoche.
Khyentse La.